Okay, we're going to get started if folks can find a seat. For those of you I don't know, I'm State Senator Brian Campion. Dick Sears and I represent Bennington County and Wilmington, and very grateful to have you all here this evening. This is a great turnout for a very important topic. And as some of you know, but some of you may not be following the work that we're doing, this is one of 6 public hearings we're doing on this issue. This is the second one here in Manchester. A couple weeks ago, we were in Springfield. With me tonight, and I'm just doing a few words of introduction, and then I'm going to be handing it over to Paula Cope, who is with Cope Associates. In addition, walking around this evening to help out is Donna Casey Barlow. Donna, would you just raise your hand? There we are, great. And next to her is Greg Opel and Aaron Adler. Greg and Aaron are both attorneys, and again, one of the things we have found with this format that you're going to be participating in this evening, a lot of questions arise. Some folks come really knowing and understanding Act 250. Other folks come with a lot of different questions, and these folks, myself, and some of the other individuals I'm about to introduce will be floating around to hopefully answer those questions. So, Act 250 is just about 50 years old. So the legislature decided to do an assessment and get a sense of where people are content and happy with Act 250. Others might want to see improvements in Act 250. So the legislature passed a bill this past year, and the governor supported it. And there are 6 of us here tonight who will be traveling throughout the state. And I just want to introduce my colleagues. Senator Pearson in the back from Burlington. Representative Lefebvre gets the award for coming the farthest. Representative Lefebvre lives just south of the Quebec border in the Northeast Kingdom. Representative David Dean over here. Before we get started officially, we have decided to show a quick video. Our chair of our commission, Amy Sheldon, could not be here, nor could Diane Snelling, who is the chair of the Natural Resources Board. And in their absence, they have a quick video that of welcome that we're going to show.
Good evening and welcome to the Forums on Act 250. I'm Representative Amy Sheldon, chair of the Commission on Act 250 the next 50 years. As you participate in the discussions, please know that this exploration of the goals and purpose of Act 250 is critically important to the positive future of Vermont. I believe we are united in our love of the Vermont landscape. Act 250 has done a lot to protect our water, air, wildlife, and historic resources. The law was forward-thinking in many ways, but today we have more information available and our past experience to guide us in improving the process, both for the environmental protection as well as economic vibrancy. The 50th anniversary is a great time to evaluate what's worked and what needs improvement, and to address the issues that we didn't know about 50 years ago, like climate change. Thank you for taking the time to learn about Act 250 and give us your input this summer and fall. The information you share in these forums and in your response to the survey will give the Commission direction on the best possible recommendations for potential future changes. Act 250 grew out of citizen involvement, and it will be strengthened by citizen involvement. While our Legislative Commission is engaged in public outreach through this series of forums, the day-to-day work of Act 250 continues. Administration and oversight of Act 250 is the responsibility of the Natural Resources Board. I'd like to introduce Diane Snelling, former senator and chair of the board, for a few words.
Thank you very much, Representative Sheldon. In 1970, the creation of Act 250 was heroic and visionary. It's still a vivid example of people thoughtfully doing what they believed was right. Now we must think first about what we hope will still be Vermont in the future. And then, by determining what we want, we can design the right planning and regulation to deliver those outcomes. The NRB continues to make improvements to our administrative protocols, and although these changes may not yet be apparent to the applicants, progress is happening. In December, we're on schedule to launch a completely online application, and I believe that soon, applicants will have the predictability and consistency they deserve from the permit process. Thank you for participating and for your thoughts on how Vermont can continue to protect our unique character and promote economic prosperity.
So we're going to start going through some of these slides. I've been given this script, and I may go off a little bit, but hopefully this will give folks a sense of what we're going to be up to this evening before I pass the mic on to Paula. So as I mentioned, Act 250 turns 50 in 2020. So we felt it's a great time to consider whether an update to Act 250 is necessary, and if so, how. The Legislative Commission is seeking citizen input to better meet the needs of the state for the next 50 years. We're holding 6 forums, as I mentioned, around the state, and Manchester is the second one. Additionally, I want to mention that this is just one way that you can participate and give feedback on Act 250. You can also get online and send an email. Additionally, a public survey will be coming out that Paul will talk a little bit about as another way to give feedback and input on Act 250. So tonight is just one way to do it. So tonight's agenda is in 3 parts. Short introduction about Act 250. Second, an opportunity to give us input about Act 250 so we know what matters most to all of you. And then third, a chance to submit your most pressing questions. So Act 250 essentials. Governor Dean Davis, some of you in the room may remember, signed Act 250 into law in 1970. Its purpose was to protect and serve the lands and the environment of the state and to ensure that these lands and the environment are devoted to uses which are not detrimental to the public welfare and interests. So you may recall that Act 250 actually grew out of a large-scale ski-related development project that was unprecedented at the time for Vermont. The law allows for both economic growth and environmental protection. Decisions are determined in 9 districts to allow for local considerations, and you'll be able to give us input on these points shortly. Key facts: Act 250 regulates certain types of development, and decisions are based on 10 criteria. Additional key facts: there's a 3-member district environmental commission focused in each of the 9 districts. Commissioners are appointed by the governor. I know we have some commissioners in the room this evening. Most people don't realize that almost 95% of applications received are approved, many with conditions, and 50% of applications are approved in 30 days or less. And one of the things that I think folks will find out this evening is what we're hoping for is to have a bit of a conversation. This isn't a traditional public hearing. Some of you may have participated in a more traditional public hearing in the past where you come up before elected officials, you say what you support, what you don't support, what you like, what you don't like. This is an opportunity for you to share those concerns at your table, as you'll learn with the facilitators, but also learn some things about Act 250. So we're also hoping that this can be an education process for many people. Let's see, not all development requires an Act 250 permit. Act 250 also gives neighbors a voice. If a person gains party status, he or she may submit evidence to the district commission during the permitting process, and the district commission considers all evidence submitted by all parties. Act 250 is just one tool we use to regulate Vermont's land use. It works with other state permits and regional municipal planning to help protect Vermont's environment. So I think at this point, I'm going to turn things over to Donna and join all of you. Thanks, Donna.
Thanks, Senator Campion. And good evening, everybody. Thank you. I want to say thank you as the Executive Director for the NRB that all of you showed up this evening to offer input into the future of Act 250. What I'm going to do right now is talk a little bit about the 250 process. It begins with a step that many people do not take advantage of. So I wanted to mention that the first step that we recommend is contacting a district coordinator. to talk about your project and to get feedback. It's sort of an opportunity for initial brainstorming before you've gone too far down the road. It helps you understand what's possible, where you may need to answer some questions on your own in order to create a very viable application process. And in general, it is a very helpful beginning to whatever you're going to pursue. So step 2 is an opportunity for any applicant to ask for what's called a jurisdictional opinion, and that a coordinator will write based on the information that you're proposing in your application and tell you whether or not, it determines whether or not you actually need an Act 250 application. And then the next step after that, if you do need an Act 250, is to prepare and submit your application. As was mentioned a few minutes ago, the NRB is currently working on creating a completely online application that will help with the process of making the application. It will be an interactive form that will have pop-ups and guidance documents. So we're hoping that it will become a very useful tool that helps individuals make application to Act 250. Following that, the steps are simply that the application is reviewed by your district commission. This is a local group of individuals who represent the district that you are proposing to have a project developed in. And that's a key component of the Act 250 process. From there, the commission deliberates after having potentially a hearing. And the permit is either accepted and authorized or denied. And the other item of information that I'd like to point out is that there are 10 criteria. There are resource-based criteria that are deliberated upon and which the application has for you to address. Lastly, I just want to mention that one of Act 250's unique attributes or characteristics is that it's a citizen-based review process. The people who are looking at and considering your application, they are not lawyers, they are not who are assigned to make this decision. They are representatives from your area determining what the right fit and what the right proposal is that balances the criteria and the obligations of Act 250. It's a unique permitting process that has influenced other states across the country to do similar things. I think it's a hallmark of Act 250 that it's lay people, not technically responsible people who are looking at scientific information alone. They're looking at the character of the region. They know the people. They know the landscape. They know the issues that are in your area, and that this is a unique attribute. So as you go through the process tonight, I urge you to keep those characteristics in mind as you look at and make decisions and identify your priorities so that you might be willing to suggest ways of improving upon that or keeping what already exists for the future. And I think that concludes my portion of tonight's presentation, and I introduce Paula Cope.
So tonight we're going to use a tool called the Big Deal, and that's how we're going to facilitate your conversations at your various tables. I want you to look at the table group you're at now, and I want you to think about two things. One, we'd like to have every table have at least 5 people. So not 10 and not... So you have 2 decks of cards. One is called the purple deck, and it's statewide perspectives. And the second one is called impact. And what we're asking about the statewide perspectives is where you think the commissioners should look at in terms of how they would weight these items in an Act 250 application. So they're not specifically ranking criteria against criteria. They're looking at things that have impact statewide. Some examples of those cards, for example, are agricultural and forest productivity, ecosystem protection, settlement patterns, scenic and natural beauty, and economic development. So that's just some of the content. You'll get into it much more deeply in your discussion group. After you rank or discuss the statewide perspectives, not rank, but tell us what matters most, you're going to be given 2 disruptor cards, and they're red. The first one is tell us how you think climate change data would impact your priorities. Will it make a difference? How will that affect your decisions? And the second one is infrastructure. Infrastructure is very broad. There's a lot of things to talk about with infrastructure: electricity, stormwater, roads, bridges, things like that, technology, all of these things come up. And so how will infrastructure, looking into the future, into the next 50 years, how will that impact the priorities that you're thinking of? And then finally, we're looking at these impact cards. And the impact cards, to be honest, are some pain points, right? They're talking about where in the process you want the commissioners to pay attention. And those cards are things like access and voice, exemptions, permitting and appeals, the very things that you talk about, jurisdiction. And you'll be giving them feedback about where should they pay most attention to when they look at the law. Finally, you'll be given a preferences survey, and it's very short, 4 questions. Your facilitator will hand it out. We'll ask you to just circle it. If you want someone to contact you, you could give us your information, and someone will follow up with you. Otherwise, it's confidential. The last way you have tonight to give us questions is your facilitator will pull out a little black envelope. If your whole group has 1 question for the whole group and you want it answered tonight, put it on the pink card and I'll come collect them. Otherwise, you are welcome to submit any questions you want on the white index cards. We'll be collecting those on the way out. You can leave it at the registration desk. All the questions will be gone through, and then answers will be posted on the website. One more way in tonight, or 2 more ways actually. As Senator Campion mentioned, there are experts all around the room. If you have a question, you want to have a conversation, by all means, raise your hand. We'll find someone, we'll bring them to you, we'll take you to them, whatever we need to do. You also have at your table a pad of paper. Some of you have a story to tell. We want you to tell us that story. We want to hear from you, but we don't want it to dominate the conversation. So please, if you have something to say and you really want to write your thoughts down and submit them to us, by all means, take the time and do it and hand it right in tonight. Tonight is about looking forward. It's about being constructive. It's about understanding what we're facing. It's about helping our legislators understand what they need to consider moving forward. So what we want you to do is to really think about, if you've got to bring one thing up, make it a good one. Pack it carefully. Bring the carry-on with you, and then it's done. All right? That's my most important ground rule for tonight. So we're going to move on, and I'm going to say, let's deal. So I'm going to turn it over to the facilitators. I'm going to be...
If we could have everybody's attention, we finally have the results. All right, here we go. Thank you. So the forum results for tonight, we begin with statewide perspectives and ecosystem protection. Sorry about that. Ecosystem protection was chosen as the most important factor when evaluating Act 250 from a statewide perspective. You can, these will be posted on the website, and you can go back in and see the particular breakdowns of each one, but I'm not going to run through those other numbers. Statewide perspectives with climate change added, ecosystem protection was again chosen as the most important factor when evaluating Act 250 with a disruptor of climate change. Statewide perspectives plus infrastructure, ecosystem protection won again in this category. So that remains a constant over those 3 slides. The overall statewide perspectives, economic development and ecosystem protection were chosen as the overall most important factors when evaluating Act 250. And this is the last one, impact perspectives. Access and voice were chosen as the most important factors when evaluating the scope of Act 250. So there are the results from all of your tables. As we said, they'll be posted. I want to say thank you to everybody who came tonight, deliberated, helped us, gave us good comments. Please, as you consider there are weeks more in this process, go online, use the access point that we provided to all of you. Please, if you have subsequent ideas or thoughts, share them with us. This is an important situation for all of us. We want the next 50 years to be as impactful and as protective of our environment and the scenic beauty of our state, and allow development to prosper. So all of you have a role in that, and we thank you for tonight, and we look forward to more additional comments. Good night.
Thank you.